My name is Maryanne Lewis, and I live in Situate with my husband Brian. I have two sons, Patrick and Matthew Kearney, who are students at Boston College High School. And I graduated from Dedham High School. Upon graduating from Dedham High School, I attended Trinity College in Washington, D.C., and took my pencil box across the street to Catholic University Law School, where I worked during the day while I attended law school for 3.5 years at night. And I had the great privilege of working for the then Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, where my root, or I should say my love of public service took root. We hear a lot of times about how or why people get involved in politics or elected office, and we hear some inspiring stories and some glamorous stories. I have sort of a less glamorous story about my sort of first entree into politics. I was 8 years old, and my uncle was a state senator for the Suffolk and Norfolk County, and it was election day, and they must have been short on bodies because I played hooky from school and was promptly dropped off at a polling place in West Roxbury, which for an 8-year-old kid from Dedham to West Roxbury might as well have been Ohio, right? So my father dropped me off, and he said, "Someone will be by in a few hours to pick you up." Well, a few hours came and went, and at 8:01 p.m. that night, I was tugging on a complete stranger's jacket saying, "Can you drive me to the KFC hall in Rossendale?" And in retrospect,
wow,
I thought for a father to sort of forget that he had left an 8-year-old daughter someplace, it must be for a very important reason, right? And it is. You know, it is for an important reason. We hold elections and we hold forums, and you folks hold editorial boards because it is important. It's important for us to keep an eye on the actions of our government and keep a watch on our elected officials.
There are a variety of issues that have been flare points in the general public conversation. I'm curious as to how you would approach the role of congressperson, congresswoman, congressman. What do you think your role is? Is it to reflect your constituency, or is it to vote from your own perspective, the way you think you should stand on an issue, morally, intellectually, psychologically, from your own experience?
I think it's both. I think it's both. And I think it's important to understand your district. We live in a very unique district. I think the 10th Congressional District is the best in the state, arguably the best in the country. What defines this region is our coast. The characteristic really that defines this region is our coast. So you have to have an understanding of what role that plays in your district. So I think it's important to understand sort of the characteristics of your district, the environmental, the economic characteristics of your district. I think it's important to understand the people that you represent, that you're elected to represent, the profile of the folks that you're voted to represent. The 10th Congressional District, there are the economic profile, the social profile. Obviously, there isn't uniformity amongst 40 cities and towns, but there are certain common denominators that our statistics would tell us. But I also think that you have an obligation to your district, but you also have an obligation in a broader sense to the country. Sometimes those two don't always reconcile. And depending on, I would take it issue by issue, policy by policy, to determine which I felt I had a greater responsibility to at the time and place of that intersection of when I served.
Okay. Do you, to get it off the table, frankly, do you see the issue of undocumented residents, illegal immigration, as one that is significant for the 10th Congressional District? And if so, what do you think you could work toward were you to be elected?
I think, at least perception-wise, it's an issue for the 10th Congressional District. And we see this all the time in business and especially in politics, that perception is reality. So to the extent that is the case, yes, it's an issue. It's an issue that seems to be very much in the forefront of people's minds. The reason that it's on the forefront of people's minds is because so many people are out of work. So many Americans are out of work. So many Americans are struggling. So many Americans have lost their jobs in fear of losing their homes. They're frustrated. We didn't hear a lot about immigration years ago when things were kind of humming along because illegal immigrants were doing jobs that Americans didn't want to do. We're in a very different economic climate, which I think is drawing attention to that issue. Understandably so. Here are the easy parts about immigration. It's easy when we talk about immigration to say, secure our borders, implement a federal policy that is uniform. It's ridiculous to assume that we're going to have 50 different immigration policies. Sure, nobody wants anyone who's here illegally to receive any benefits. They shouldn't. We should crack down on employers who hire illegal aliens. No kidding. Perfect common sense. It should be enforced. We should make sure it's enforced. All that should be in place. To the extent that it's not, absolutely I will do everything to make sure that it is when I'm as a member of Congress. The harder question is, what do we do about the estimated 10 to 30 million people that are here? I don't think they should be rewarded with citizenship or this DREAM Act. I don't think that there should be that they should receive, the right to vote or be rewarded with citizenship for being here illegally. But we have to think about a common sense sort of answer, a solution to that. And I'm not sure that rounding up 10 to 30 million people and putting them on a boat or processing them to leave is that practical from any point of view, whether it's an economic point of view or the cost for that. I think if we implement those other changes, there will be a natural, people will leave that are here illegally if we don't give them a reason to be here.